All right, YouTube, this is Detroit's HPTV coming to you out of Detroit with another video back on this early Thursday morning. I want to talk about the story of Stephen Smith and Jasmine Crockett. I wasn't going to talk about this story because it seems so petty the way they go at each other when they critique each other's politics. Now, I'm probably going to lose some subscribers when I say this, but if you unsubscribe because of what I'm about to say, then you need to be gone. And I want to see what you say in the comments, because we're going to start with some truths. On the Democratic Party side, there are racists in the Democratic Party. On the Republican side, there are racists in the Republican Party. We know this. On both sides, or in any culture or whatever, you have people who will be racist. Now, the problem comes between black so-called conservatives and black so-called liberals is they refuse to call out the racism in their own party. They point fingers across the aisle, but they will not deal with the issue that there's racism in both parties. So when they start calling each other sellouts and bootlicks and all these ad hominem attacks that they use on each other, who's really being a bootlick and a sellout? Because if you a black conservative and you're not calling out the racism that you see from white conservatives in your party, then you're a sellout. But it's the same on the Democratic side. If you're a Democrat and you're not calling out racism in the Democratic Party because y'all have a company line, then you're a sellout. And then you got to think about it. When you say the word conservative, the Republican Party does not own the word conservative. Just like the Democrats don't own the word liberal. So you have people who think conservatively but have liberal tendencies. But they never address the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room is that there's racism in both parties. So if you are a black politician or commentator and you calling out racism in the opposition party, why you never address the racism in your own party? You know them politicians make legislation that harms your community, but you go along with that because you're in the same party. Now, I want you to look at this clip. I'm doing a reaction to Pink Book Lessons. Shout out to Pink Book Lessons. I like to react to a lot of her videos. And what she's going to show you and talk about is the divide between the people who support Jasmine Crockett and don't like Stephen A. Smith. And I want you to tell me if what Stephen Smith actually said was wrong, hurtful, or in bad faith. Now let's check out the video. It's for fair usage under the 1976 Copyright Act for education and commentary. Look at this.
On today's episode of The Old and the Beautiful.
What am I getting wrong? Because if you listen to Stephen A. Smith and you find anything other than some absolute, pure, self-hating, little energy nonsense from that half-witted idiot basking in the non-existent rays of his own ignorance, it is sad to me.
Energy prices, oil at $81 a barrel, moderate and stable, no major inflation pressure from energy. And of course, the federal deficit, which we were popular for saying was at $37 trillion, has now been trimmed to $35 trillion. So when you read numbers like that, ladies and gentlemen, it sounds like Trump is doing his job. It sounds like Trump is doing his job. And see, what we're not going to do is we're not going to be like pundits on the air, taking one side or another, refusing to highlight the positive, always focusing on the negative when it comes to a candidate we can't stand or a politician we can't stand. And then we reverse course when it's somebody that we like, okay? And all of a sudden we want to say everything positive about them, but nothing negative. I don't have time for that. I don't have time for that. And when Hakeem Jeffries, the House Democratic leader, brings up how people are paying attention to their cause, he's right about that. Because you don't want to hear numbers like this if you go to buy eggs and it's twice the price that it was, or milk or anything like that. I'm not saying that's the case.
Yeah, because eggs are down. You don't even hear people complaining about eggs anymore. They're just eating them and focusing on another issue because eggs are down 50% compared to the same time last year. Milk is also down nearly 12% from a year ago. When you had dairy up so high last year, people complained because, yeah, it was ridiculous. But when the prices dropped, nobody remembered they complained about it before. It's just a non-factor now because it's no longer a problem.
Oh, you like that?
So Chris's Monopoly Go fantasy draft didn't pan.
Saying that's how you live it. When you go to pump gas in your car, you don't want to look at oil being $81 a barrel and say, hey, we're in a good place. You don't give a damn about that. What you care about is the fact that it costs you damn near $5 a gallon in LA, but you in Charlotte, North Carolina, and it's at $2.
Yeah, California gas is definitely $5 to $6. You might get lucky in some areas at $4.65 right now, and that's considered a discount. You can also go to Safeway or somewhere like that where people can use their points for groceries to get discounted gas. So sure, you can do that in California, but the price for gas is still 2 times the cost everywhere else. Outside of California and a lot of states, people are seeing somewhere between $2.45 and $2.75.
That's what you care about. That's the kind of thing that makes you want to move. That's the kind of thing that makes you want to relocate. When we're looking at federal funds rate, that 4 to 4.25%.
Now, I want to interject for a minute because you have so many people on the left, mainly black liberals, attacking Stephen A. Smith for what he said. But what he said as it pertained to how the rhetoric and the race baiting and the name calling, it doesn't do anything for the constituents. You know, if your whole thing is we just gonna be anti-Trump, what does that do for your constituents? You know, and as I stated when I started this video, why don't Democrats who are black call out the racism in the Democratic Party? And the black conservatives do the same thing. You know, the parties act as if they own labels. They own people. When you think about it, when you say the word, when somebody say they're conservative, you automatically think that they're a Republican, as if Republicans actually own the word conservative. And it's the same way with the liberals. So if we're going to talk about racism and a division in this country, we got to talk about it honestly. And both parties have their races. And you know, this is not something I'm making up. If you in America, you know that there's bad on both sides. But they can't never get to that in the black community because they too busy calling each other bootlickers, Uncle Toms, and sellouts. But who's the real sellout? If you're not calling out the wrongs in your own party that hurts your community and hurts your people. Listen to some more.
You know what? When you talk about stable, expected to fall later in 2025, easing borrowing costs, you know why that matters? How much is an extra point to you? Because if you went and you bought a house and the rate is at 6.25%, and let's say for the sake of argument, your monthly mortgage costs you about $20,000. But then a year later, the rate drops to 5.25%. Well, that might drop you down to 15. That matters. But people might not look at it. They're not gonna look at these overall numbers. So I think Hakeem Jeffries makes a good point in that regard. But it doesn't make the Democrats innocent. And where I was going to go to him, the Jasmine Crockett's of the world, the AOCs. Let me tell you something right now. And I'm not calling her out because I don't like her or anything like that. I think Jasmine Crockett is an intelligent, accomplished woman who's a representative in the nation's capital. I think AOC is going to decide to run for the Senate seat in New York City. And I think that's why Chuck Schumer is holding down the fort and going along with the rest of the Democrats in support of this shutdown, because he knows that he went against them last time, kept the government open, alienated the other progressives, or the progressives rather, on the left, infuriated them against him, which put AOC in a position to challenge him for a seat because he's been a career politician.
Do you want to see how fast I can earn crypto with a Gemini credit card? All right, let's go to McDonald's. Hello, can I get a number?
And AOC is also an idiot. She's not as loud and ghetto as Jasmine Ratchet, who's really not ghetto for real. That's performative. Yeah, that's just Jasmine's routine to get the attention of the sister girl group and the beta black males that follow them. But AOC is only in office looking out for AOC first and her people second. While the Jasmine Crockett's, they're in office looking out for themselves first and AOC's people second. Remember though, they're in the Black Caucus, but don't have no black policies on the agenda at all. They just use black Americans, our history and emotions to get us stumping for goodies for everybody else, going along with our own replacements.
We ain't blind. Again, we were born at night, not last night. We could see it. We can see it as clear as day. So when we look at issues like that, it matters, it's pertinent, it's relevant. But I bring all of that up when I point to a Jasmine Crockett is because here's what I know. All I ever hear her doing is going off about Trump. Ladies and gentlemen, can I tell you what my belief is? I have no desire to be a politician. Let me reiterate that. And I appreciate House Leader, Democratic Leader Hakeem Jeffries speaking to me in the way that he did by saying that I speak with the frustration of the American people because you damn right I do. Let me tell you what gets me annoyed. And I hope Jasmine Crockett is listening to this. By the way, she's welcome on the show. When you go on national television and you call in the President of the United States out of his name, and you're being all disrespectful, as a representative in this country, do you believe the citizens of Texas sent you there to do that? They don't like him either. I'm talking about those who voted for her in all likelihood. But because he is who he is and he is in that position, they expect you to go to Capitol Hill and figure out a way to maneuver yourself through that terrain to work in a fashion that's going to facilitate getting things.
Now, ain't nothing wrong with what Stephen A. Smith is saying, because for the next 3 years, all they're going to do is call each other names. Nothing's going to get done for the constituents that send them to Washington because of the name calling, because they trying to cancel Stephen A. Smith. Like he said something wrong because he critiqued Jasmine Crockett. The manipulation is terrible when you think about a whole Democratic Party based on liberalism, but are intolerant to any criticism. Think about that. They so inclusive and so tolerant until you criticize one of them. Listen what some more what Stephen said.
Done on behalf of your constituents. That's your job.
And I have to agree. Jasmine Crockett, the only thing she's getting done is pushing the agendas for other communities. But no, she's not doing anything for Texans, and she's not doing anything for black people, which is crazy because she's there to represent Texas, and she's a member of the largest do-nothing caucus in Congress, the Black Caucus. A group that ain't put no points on the board for black people at all. Instead, they're stumping against black progress while putting other groups above us, then brainwashing the black community as they make black Americans a permanent underclass in our own country.
That's your job. Excuse my language on Sirius XM, but it ain't your job to say he ain't worth a damn. That's not your job. Anybody can do that. You're supposed to be figuring out a way to get things done. And when it comes to this president, that egotistical, maniacal tendencies that he has, everything is about Trump, where every cabinet member and everybody and their grandmama got a fawn all over him before they speak. I mean, these people, before they say hello, they say, I just want to say we have a great president. He's such a great leader. I love him so much. He's so wonderful. He's so marvelous. He's the leader we need. I mean, they do this every day. Because it's damn near a requirement when it comes to him. And I understand it. I can't stand it, but I see it. But the flip side to it is that he's a deal maker. And if you figure out a way to make him look good in any way, Quid pro quo is something he lives by. He'll reciprocate. If you know that, why you can't figure it out?
That part is true. Trump's personality is all about making himself look good. If he can make a deal that's also going to make him look good, he'll make a deal with anybody. If the Black Caucus actually came with policies and legislation to benefit Black Americans and they sat down with Trump to make a deal, do you know how easy it will be if they put down their anti-Black American agenda for once and actually focus on Black Americans? Do you know the things that can get accomplished with somebody that's not scared to do it, and how easy it will be for them to convince him to get on board with them? I'm talking about a Black American agenda. Not getting on board with all this immigrant stuff, but an actual Black American agenda. The Black Caucus can make that happen. Think about it. Obama told us he couldn't do nothing the first term. After we all ran down there, vote for him, had my president's black, my Lambo blue. Most of us didn't have no Lambo. Then once again, a lot of us like fools ran down there, fell for the okie doke a second time.
If you have ever wanted to land a $100 to $150K a year fully remote career in as little as the next...
Then they spent 4 years fighting with Trump his first term, got him up out of there, brought Biden and Kamala in. Black people single-handedly put him in office, only to tell Black people we need to shut up and get behind the Hispanics because we don't matter and now they do. So what he told Black people through his conversation with Al Sharpton and the rest of them fools sit up on the phone with him is that we need to be fighting for whatever Hispanics want. Yeah, once again, this is what that man told us after Black people single-handedly put him in office. Then the Indian Asian lady, who they tried to force us into calling Black, went up there with him and got all the goodies for her own people while telling us, you think I'm gonna do something for Black people? No. So after all of that, here we go again. Another term with Trump, fighting him every day, and we're not even fighting him for ourselves. You have Black people sitting up here fighting for other people, talking about racism, while defending a bunch of anti-Black people of color, which is absolutely crazy because I've been saying this the whole time. This is not our fight. The white people fighting each other, the red and the blue, that's none of our business either. The MAGA fighting Hispanics, that's not our business. When a lot of Hispanics voted for him, that's their own internal problem. That is not our problem. But once again, all these people are distracting us, using our energy to fight for them while we get absolutely nothing out of the deal. Black people ain't getting nothing but evictions, foreclosures, and notices to move out our own neighborhoods to make way for these anti-Black people of color that's steady moving in, kicking us out. So Stephen A., he had that to say about Jasmine Crockett. And Tiffany, the failed feminist misandrist, former MSNBC host that got fired, she came out at straight Black men once again with her usual disrespect.
It's so disheartening to me. It's frustrating, one, because anytime we speak on this, it's like we, man haters and all this. But I feel such confidence in Black men. I've never bought into the idea that all these Black men are voting for Trump. Like, they vote overwhelmingly Democrat. We're pretty much in line with each other. What you all are saying is no. They are, and the data shows that there have been inroads among Black men. I want to ask why, because it is frustrating to me, and it feels heartbreaking, to be honest, because we are impacted by this system as well. It's not a matter of who's impacted worse. We're impacted differently. We sit at the intersection of being Black and being women. And so when men are frustrated with this system, it feels like they fight us. And I would put Stephen A. Smith in that category too. Like, I'm mad at y'all for having joy. I'm mad at y'all for having success. I'm mad at y'all for surpassing us on college campuses. And so it's a small sect of men that are so angry and hurt that they're willing to align with the people who oppress us.
Listen to that misandry she's spewing out. And Black women don't just surpass Black men on college campuses. The females in every racial group surpasses men in college enrollment. That's because men realized a long time ago that modern college was a fraud. So they went around that system and still found ways to earn money, blue-collar work, trades, entrepreneurship, with zero college debt, which gave them higher net worth than the women who went to college. You're talking about all this college enrollment and degrees, but it's cool the debt that came along with it. If you have $100,000 worth of student loan debt and you make $50,000, $60,000, $75,000 per year, then on top of that, you're paying 50% on housing instead of 25%, 30%, then that would explain why you can't afford a $500 emergency and have a $100 net worth. And no, I'm not talking about Tiffany and Angela, because they make all their money keeping other Black women mad, broke, and single. Yeah, Angela make plenty of money from these political groups to keep you chasing your tail and talk about stupid stuff.
What am I getting wrong? Because if you listen to Stephen A. Smith and you find anything other than some absolute pure self-hating little energy nonsense from that half-witted idiot basking in the non-existent rays of his own ignorance, it is sad to me that he even gets an audience of black men. Why aren't black men right now saying, Stephen A. Smith, we banning him, we're not listening to his podcast, we're not watching his show anymore? That's what...
Look at her go off and talk about Stephen A. Smith like a dog just because he criticized Jasmine Crockett's tactics as a congresswoman and her constituents and her tirades against Trump. He asked a simple question. How are you going to get anything from the federal government if you bash them and tell them how much you hate them every time you get in front of a camera? That was a good question.
Black women do, we organize.
Yeah, but they're...
Baseless conversation. That's all they sit and have while pretending to be intellectuals. All of them. And you see the men they sit up there with? They can't get along with straight black men. These are the only men that can keep them company. And they'll even start barking at them if they don't fall in line and agree with everything they say. They're unbearable. And Tiffany is running her mouth the most in this clip. But don't sleep on Angela. She's a whole walking, talking mental health crisis. And it's sad, Tiffany, she's supposed to be so smart, but she couldn't even think of nothing to say but that bimbo babble she spewed out. And you wonder why she's a middle-aged woman who could never get a real black man. So she gotta hang with other lonely, miserable, strong black women every weekend, drinking and eating their lives away. This is why. See how she addressed a black man who didn't agree with her politically? A black man that's not even a Republican. He's a Democrat just like she's a Democrat. He voted for the same people she voted for. But that's not enough. You have to agree with everything they do and say while they lead black people to our demise.
What am I getting wrong? Because if you listen to Stephen A. Smith and you find anything other than some absolute pure self-hating little energy nonsense from that half-witted idiot basking in the non-existent rays of his own ignorance, it is sad to me.
And they wonder why every time they talk, people point out their misandry. That's because they can't help themselves. They keep exposing it. Then nobody's talking about this Muppet baby spewing her misandry and her baby bot bimbo babble. Nobody's calling for her to be banned. No, she's allowed to say whatever she's going to say on this little podcast, and nobody's trying to take their show away. But because she's in disagreement with Stephen A., she's trying to take his voice away and tell black men to boycott him and says the company should cut his show. Once again, thinking that they can just pull black men around by the nose because black men are supposed to follow black women, not the other way around though. And this is how I know they still don't get it. They keep pushing black men away romantically, politically, in every way. I mean, think about it. Why would any straight, competent black man sit up and let a bunch of flamingos like this tell them anything? Especially a black man that don't play about his respect. You won't even find him in a room with people like this. Let's go ahead and get the conversation started. Tiffany said black men are mad at black women because they go to college more, and black men are taking it out on black women. She said y'all need to boycott Stephen A. Smith and get him off air. Tell me what you think about this below. I want to thank everybody who support this channel. You can show your support as well. The link to...
Shout out to Pink Book Lessons. Do you see how our community handles their politics? She got a whole theory about black men being mad because black women went to college, and that's why they went and voted for Trump. And it's insane. The mentality is insane because nobody will actually get on camera and tell the truth. There are racists in the Democratic Party and there are racists in the Republican Party. Black Democrats don't call out the racism in the Democratic Party, and black conservatives have not been calling out the racism in the Republican Party. So how can y'all, as politicians, debate with each other about who's the biggest sellout when y'all doing the same thing? And you starting to expose the government that they're really two wings of the same bird. We got to do better than this. I mean, just be honest. Be honest in your assessment of what the political landscape is. We see what everybody sees what's going on. And we know that both parties had their issues. But the infighting, the personal attacks, That just looks terrible. So I just wanted to address this topic this morning because I've been seeing it all over the internet. To me, it's trifling. And this is Detroit's HPTV, signing to you out of Detroit. Like, share, subscribe, support the channel, and as always, salute to all patriots. Peace. Keep your head on swivel.